Every day, Chicagoans gulp down nearly 1 billion gallons of water for hundreds of different purposes. But exactly how does water get to the faucet? And where does it go after we flush it? The answer involves a Great Lake, a river, and gritty ingenuity. The source of Chicago's water, Lake Michigan, is easy to see. Its 1,180 cubic miles of water represents nearly 4% of the world's unfrozen surface freshwater. The system by which Chicago gets its water, however, is almost invisible. Here, where city meets water, sits the world's largest conventional water purification plant. Opened in 1964 and operated by the city of Chicago, the James W. Jardine plant can treat 1 million gallons of water each minute. The treatment process, involving both physical and chemical methods, begins about 2.5 miles offshore at large structures called cribs. These are the straws of the city's water supply. About 20 feet below the lake's surface, water enters into a shaft and descends 168 feet to a tunnel system deep in the bedrock. Built between the 1890s and 1930s, the tunnels are an engineering marvel. Workers blasted through the earth using dynamite and carted clay and bricks using Model Ts. The water's trip through the tunnels, from crib to shore, takes about an hour. Inside the plant, rotating screens catch fish and debris, and then giant pumps lift the water up 25 feet. From here on out, gravity powers much of the process. As water flows through the intake basins, 3 different chemicals are mixed in. First, chlorine, which kills harmful bacteria and other microorganisms. Second, fluoride, which helps prevent cavities. And finally, aluminum sulfate, or alum, that attracts and sticks to microscopic solids. This flaky buildup is called flock. Giant riverboat-like paddles, called flocculators, thoroughly mix the alum and water. In settling tanks, the relatively heavy flock sinks and the cleaner water moves on to the next step, filtration. Each of the 96 swimming pool-sized filters at Jardine has 2 layers. On top, fine sand, and below, coarse gravel. As the water sinks through the layers, particles get stuck in the spaces between the grains. 8 hours after entering the plant, the water is ready for release. 12 pumping stations transport water through 4,000 miles of pipe to nearly 5.5 million people. Lake Michigan has always fed Chicago's faucets, but for a long time, it also received what was flushed. Originally, the Chicago River flowed east, into the lake. By the late 1800s, it had become the boomtown's waste canal, channeling sewage, runoff, and disease-causing bacteria into the drinking supply. In 1890, the newly formed sanitary district started digging. Deep canals pulled the flow of the Chicago River west and linked it to the Mississippi River watershed. A vast underground maze of tunnels also took root. The tunnels, ranging from 8 to 30 feet in diameter, now intercept all the water that goes down drains, from the kitchen sink to city streets. Nearly 1.3 billion gallons of wastewater are funneled each day to treatment plants operated by the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. Most ends up on Chicago's southwest side, at the Stickney facility, the largest in the world. The 4-step treatment process mimics a natural river. Essentially, it's about water, gravity, oxygen, and bacteria. This is how it works. After passing through rotating screens that catch large debris, the water is lifted by giant pumps 50 feet to the first series of tanks. Gravity propels the water forward and causes heavy inorganic particles, such as sandy grit, to sink. Oxygen is injected into the tanks, and the churning, bubbly water breaks down organic matter, such as sewage. Next, water crawls through long, linear settling tanks. Heavy organic material settles to the bottom, oils float to the top and out. For a second time, oxygen is pumped into the water, but oxygen-breathing microbes are also mixed in. These will digest most remaining waste. In the final step, water slowly moves up and across 30-foot diameter pools, allowing small particles to settle before spilling over into transfer channels. This treated water, called effluent, is released into the sanitary and ship canal, which is the first leg of the journey to the Mississippi River. So, what about all of the solids that settled? Some go to landfills, but others, rich in organic matter, called biosolids, can be recycled as fertilizer and landscaping fill. Despite the astounding size and sophistication of Chicago's water treatment facilities, both before the faucet and after the flush, there are limits. Lake Michigan isn't bottomless, and efforts to avoid turning use into misuse are everywhere and at every scale. And keeping harmful materials out of drains can protect precious water resources. In the world of water, everything is downstream.